What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Godly Potential YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Kybalion. The reason why I'm talking about this video is because I received a question asking me, could I talk about, or what are my thoughts on the Emerald Tablet and the Kybalion, right? Now, when it comes to the Emerald Tablets, to be honest, I don't know anything about it. So recently, I just delved into the Emerald Tablets, and I'm currently reading through that. And once I have read through it a few times and got a certain level of understanding on it, I will then make a response or a follow-up video on that. But when it comes to the Kybalion, I know pretty much a thing or two about it, specifically when it comes to the principles around the Kybalion and the Three Initiates book. Okay, now some people, when they think of the Kybalion, they think of like the Jewish mysticism, right? The tree of life and the Sephiras and things of that nature, right? I'm no expert on that, so I won't be talking about that, not as of right now, not as of today. However, I will delve into the 7 principles that are associated, or that are the 7 principles that are within the text of the Kybalion and the Three Initiates. So I'm going to be pulling up some pages of that book. I'm basically just going to read through the definition of it and give my take on it, right? Give my interpretation on it. Okay. However, before I get into that, I just pretty much want to give a shameless plug, and also say right now, thumbs up the video, like, subscribe, share for your boy. But I want to just bring up a few things that I sell, right? A few products that I have. First one being the Godly Potential High Vibration Oil. Each oil comes with Moldavite as well as Herkimer diamond. This oil is used to anoint your crystals yourself, or anything. If you do rituals, you can anoint your candles with it, your spiritual objects with it. And basically what it's going to do is raise the vibration of everything that you anoint with. Okay, it's great with dream work. So put in your third eye, your temples, right across your chakras before you go to sleep. You experience some wild dreams. You can do some dream work. That's one thing. Here you have the Godly Potential Spiritual Cleansing Spray, right? This spray is awesome. In fact, let me just real quick. This is made from, I don't even know, like 15 or 20 like natural ingredients that I pretty much concocted myself after doing research and all the cleansing benefits that they all have. So that's for pretty much cleansing your aura and cleansing anything that needs to be cleansed energetically. That's pretty much all I have right here in this space to show. But if you're interested in either one of those, I also have other things like spiritual cleansing baths, altar sets, apparel. You can check all that out in the link description on my Etsy store. But enough of that. Without further ado, let me just pull up these passages and let's go through it. Cool, here we go. So, one second. So, here we have the 7 Harmonic Principles. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly processes the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. The Kybalion. Let me just repeat that. The 7 Harmonic Principles. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. The Kybalion. So with these 7 principles, you can you can gain access to a bunch of wisdom and insights into this reality. The 7 Hermetic Principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based are as follows. 1. The Principle of Mentalism. 2. The Principle of Correspondence. 3. The Principle of Vibration. 4. The Principle of Polarity. 5. The Principle of Rhythm. 6. The Principle of Cause and Effect. 7. The Principle of Gender. These 7 principles will be discussed and explained as we proceed with these lessons. A short explanation of each, however, may as well be given at this point. These are just a short explanation, and I'm only going to read the short explanations, and then I'm going to give my take on it. Okay. So the Principle of Mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains the all, which is the substantial reality underlying the outward manifestation and appearances, which we know under the terms of mental or material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, and all, in short, all that is apparent of the material senses, spirit. So it explains that the all is spirit, which in itself is unknowable, the undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an universal, infinite living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the varied material and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of the public attention, and which without such explanation are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. Okay. An understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner, which is the master key in his possession. The student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Harmonic masters wrote long ages ago, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." And these words are as true today as at the time they were first written. Without the master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. That is the law of mentalism as written in this passage. So, my interpretation, the law is mental, the all is mind, the universe is mental. The principle of mentalism, essentially it states that the all is mind. God, the creator, is mind. It's a giant mind. It's not a person. It's not a humanoid entity with hands, fingers, toes, with emotions, feelings. It is mind. And so one of the other principles is, or I don't even know if it's principle, but you get as above, so below, right? Well, or as within, so without. If it is as above, so below, As above, the creator, the all, up there is mind. So as below, down here, what represents the all? If it is as above, so below, or as within, so without. Our mind would be that microcosm of that macrocosm, right? So the all in this as above, so below reference is our mind down here, because our mind is the only thing that is infinite, right? It has no limit. The oceans have a limit, right? The skies have a limit here on earth, right? The mind does not. So the all is mind. God is mind. God is a infinite intelligence. It's a mind. The universe is mental, right? I believe this states that everything you see, or nothing that you see, was not first created within the mind. Everything you see was first a figment of someone's imagination, or a figment of the all's imagination, and then it became solidified and to be through focus and concentration. But it all begins with mind, because all is mental. Not only that, all is mental on a more lower level. My interpretation of this is there is no such thing as good or bad. It's all mental. Everything we endure, it's all mental, right? All the stuff that seems physical, it's first, everything that we see is interpreted through our mind, right? Through the mental. When we see stuff, it comes through our filters of our eyes, these cameras we have, right? These surveillance cameras we have, and it is filtered through the mind. Then it is processed, and then we come up with an explanation or an answer or a judgment on it. Same thing with hearing. It comes through the ears, these recorders, right? And it is filtered through the mind, and then you come up with something, right? That vibration in there, it is filtered through the mind and comes up with something, right? Same thing with all the senses, right? It's all filtered through the mind. It is all filtered through the mind. And so the universe is mental. That's essentially, or the law of mentalism, or the principle of mentalism, is essentially what that means in my opinion, or in my interpretation. Number 2, the principle of correspondence. Here it is. I just said it. As above, so below. As below, so above. The Kybalion. A lot of people don't understand this, but you have the Baphomet image when he has a hand up and a hand down, or you have the magician in the tarot, one up, one down. It's as above, so below. That's essentially what that means. Okay, the principle of correspondence. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being in life. The old Hermetic axiom ran in these words: as above, so below. As below, so above. And the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox and hidden secret of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is of universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe. It is a universal law. The ancient Hermeticists consider this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the extent that a glimpse of the face of the goddess might be caught. Ooh. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distance or distant suns and their movements while seated in his observatory, so a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the known to the unknown. Studying the monad, he understands the archangel. The law of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. It's basically saying that the microcosm is a reflection of the macrocosm. As within, so without. The universe is a reflection of the I-niverse, right? Like I stated earlier. The mind is the lower level condensed version, you can say, of God. Because through the mind we can access everything. You can close your eyes right now and imagine infinity. You can imagine that, right? The fact that you can imagine it means that your mind is greater than it, right? The mind is not, in my opinion, through my experiences, I can imagine everything except for God, because that is the one thing that my mind isn't greater than, because it is it, you know. But anything else that the mind is greater than, it can't fathom. So you can close your eyes and you can imagine infinity. You can. And so it's because your mind is greater than that. So as above, so below. As below, so above. It's no different from the gods that we call upon, or rather, I like the example of when people call upon God, right? Without the proper means of doing it. That's no different from the ant calling upon a human, right? The ant can do things to get the human's attention. If a person was bitten by an ant, it's going to get his attention, right? If you call out to God in the proper way, if you pray to God properly, correctly, you will get his attention. Whichever God, because there's gods and gods and gods, you can get their attention. Okay? But I believe that this principle of correspondence means as above, so below. As below, so above. To me, that's self-explanatory. Because it's kind of like, if you know yourself, you know others. Because even though it's not stated, that as within, so without also applies here. Right. 3. The principle of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion. Everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet this hermetic principle was enunciated thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. This principle explains that the differences between the different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit result largely from the varying rates of vibration, from the all, which is pure spirit, down to the grotesque or the grossest form of matter. All is in vibration. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale. The vibration of spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidity that it is practically at rest. That's fast. Just as a rapidly moving wheel seems to be motionless, and the other end of the scale, there are gross forms of matter whose vibrations are so low as to seem at rest. Between these poles, there are millions upon millions of varying degrees of vibration, from corpuscle and electron, atom and molecule, to worlds and universes. Everything is in vibratory motion. This is also true on the planes of energy and force, which are but varying degrees of vibration, and also on the mental planes, whose states depend upon vibrations, and even on the spiritual planes. An understanding of this principle with the appropriate formulas enables Hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations, as well as those of others. The masters also apply this principle to the conquering of natural phenomena in various ways. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the specter of power, says one of the old writers. Principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. This means everything that you see has a frequency. Everything you see is vibrating. Things seem or appear to be still. They appear to be motionless, but on a molecular, on a vibratory scale, they're all vibrating. Everything has its frequency. Everything has a frequency. This also includes the spirit or the soul, right? It also has a frequency. So when you die, or when you take the transition, that spirit just leaves the body, and that body, its frequency just becomes so low that it seems motionless. But the spirit, its vibration, or its essence still carries a vibration, and so it just moves on to something else. That was one of the realizations that I had one day when I first thought about reincarnation. I was like, okay, so if everything vibrates, right? If energy can't be destroyed, only transferred, and if energy vibrates, it can't be destroyed. The spirit is energy. It vibrates, it moves. Then it simply passes on, right? And this also means that the food you intake, it vibrates, it has a frequency. Okay? Your thoughts, your emotions carry a frequency. This principle just states that nothing rests. Everything moves, right? Number 4, the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet all truths, but are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The principle of polarity. This principle embodies the truth that everything is dual. Everything has two poles. Everything has this pair of opposites, all of which were old Hermetic axioms. It explains the old paradoxes that have perplexed so many, which have been stated as follows. Theses and antitheses are identical in nature, but different in degree. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree. The pairs of opposites may be reconciled. Extremes meet. Everything is and it isn't at the same time. All truths are but half truths. Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything, etc., etc., etc. It explains that in everything there are two poles or opposite aspects, and the opposites are really only the two extremes of the same thing, with many varying degrees between them. To illustrate heat and cold, although opposites are really the same thing, the differences consisting merely on degrees of the same thing. Look at your thermometer and see if you can discover where heat terminates and cold begins. There is no such thing as an absolute heat or an absolute cold. The two terms heat and cold simply indicate varying degrees of the same thing, and that same thing which manifests as heat and cold is merely a form, variety, and rate of vibration. So heat and cold are simply the two poles of that which we call heat, and the phenomena attendant thereupon are manifestations of the principle of polarity. The same principle manifests in the case of light and darkness, which are the same thing, the differences consisting of varying degrees between the poles or the two poles of the phenomenon. Where does darkness leave off and light begins? What is the difference between large and small, between hard and soft, between dark or between black and white, between sharp and dull, between noise and quiet, between high and low, between positive and negative? The principle of polarity explains which paradoxes are no other principle can supersede it. The same principle operates on the mental plane. Let us take a radical and extreme example of that of love and hate. Two mental states apparently totally different, and yet there are degrees of hate and degrees of love, and a middle point in which we use the terms like or dislike, which shade into each other so gradually that sometimes we are at a loss to know whether we like or dislike or neither. And all are simply degrees of the same thing, as you will see if you will but think a moment. And more than this, and considered or more important by the Hermeticists, it is possibly to change the vibration of hate to the vibration of love in one's own mind and in the minds of others. Many of you who read these lines have had personal experiences of the involuntary, rapid transition from love to hate, and the reverse, in your own case and that of others, and you will therefore realize the possibility of this being accomplished by the use of the will, by means of the Hermetic formulas, good and evil are but the poles of the same thing, and the Hermeticist understands the art of transmuting evil into good by means of an application of the principle of polarity. In short, the art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy, known and practiced by the ancient and modern Hermetic masters. An understanding of the principle will enable one to change his own polarity, as well as that of others, if he will devote the time and study necessary to master the art. That is the law or the principle of polarity. Everything has its poles. Now, that explained it so perfectly well. Like, there is no other examples or analogies that I can use for that. Like, that was just perfect. I don't think my input is needed. 5. The principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swings, manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. Yep. This is no different from the amount of hardship and struggle you go through. It's like a bungee cord. The lower you go down, hit rock bottom, the higher you can be sent up higher, right? Because you go through these hardships and these heartbreaks and stuff. On the other side of that, it's more strength, more wisdom, more knowledge, right? And the harder, the more rougher the hardships, the more greater strength that you gain afterwards. But this principle embodies the truth that in everything there is manifested a measured motion to and fro, a flow and inflow, a swing backward and forward, a pendulum-like movement, a tide like ebb and flow, a high tide and low tide. Between the two poles which exist in accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago, there is always an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe, suns, worlds, man's, animals, mind, energy, and matter. This law is manifest in the creation and destruction of worlds, in the rise and fall of nations, in the life of all things, and finally in the mental states of man. It is with this latter that the Hermeticists find the understanding of the principle most important. The Hermeticists have grasped this principle, finding its universal application, and have also discovered certain means to overcome its effects in themselves by the use of the appropriate formulas and methods. They apply the mental law of neutralism. They cannot annul the principle or cause it to cease its operation, but they have learned how to escape its effects upon themselves to a certain degree. Depending upon the mastery of the principle, they have learned how to use it instead of being used by it. In this and similar methods consists the art of Hermeticists. The master of Hermetics polarizes himself at the point at which he desires to rest, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to the other pole. All individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously. But the master does this consciously and by the use of his will, and attains a degree of poise and mental firmness almost impossible of belief on the part of the masses, who are swung backwards and forward like a pendulum. This principle and that of polarity have been consciously studied by the Hermeticists, and the methods of counteracting, neutralizing, and using them form an important part of the Hermetic mental alchemy. The principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and all things fall. The pendulum swings from the left and the right, right? It's basically saying, look, you're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. Just know that. The better the good day, you can expect the worse the bad days to come, right? More money, more problems. The more energy you exert, the more tired you're going to be, right? And that's what it is. Number 6. Almost there. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. The Kybalion. I like that. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. This is actually what karma is. It's cause and effect, right? Everything has its opposite and equal reaction. Yeah. This principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect. An effect from every cause. It explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens. Right? There's no such thing as coincidence. No. It's happening for a reason. Either it's an effect of something or it's going to cause something. It explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens, that there is no such thing as chance, that while there are various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower planes, still nothing ever entirely escapes the law. The Hermeticists understand the art and methods of rising above the ordinary plane of cause and effect to a certain degree, and by mentally rising to a higher plane, they become causers instead of effectors or effects. The masses of people are carried along, obedient to environment, the wills and desires of others stronger than themselves, heredity, suggestions, and other outward causes moving them about like pawns in the chessboard of life. But the masses rising to the plane above dominate their moods, characters, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become movers instead of pawns. They help to play the game of life instead of being played and moved about. Where am I at? Instead of being played and moved about by other wills and environment. They use the principle instead of being its tools. The masses obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule on their own plane. It is this statement. In this statement, there is condensed a wealth of Hermetic knowledge. Let him read who can. The principle of cause and effect. Yeah, like I said, there is no effect, or like it said, there is no effect without a cause. There is no cause without effect. Right? When things aren't, or when someone has something in their life and you say, wow, they are so lucky. Wrong. They were cause. You are seeing the effect. They caused something to be. And you're seeing the effect of it, right? Oh my God, I don't know what happened. One day they just up and left me, right? Everything was going perfect. Wrong. There was a cause before that effect, right? Oh, that person just lucky. Like they were just born lucky. They're just talented. Wrong. You're seeing the effect. There was a cause before that. Now it says the majority, the masses, are just they're at effect. They're not causing anything to be, right? Which means they're reacting to life. They're not causing things to be. They're not creating or causing stuff to be. They're just reacting to everything. They're not initiating anything. They're in effect. They're in reaction. That's the principle of cause and effect. Number 7, last one. The principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes of Kybalion. Yeah. Everything has its masculine and feminine. Breathing in, that's feminine. You're intaking. Breathing out, that's masculine. You're exerting out, right? The woman's vagina goes inward. That's feminine. The man's phallus goes outward. That's masculine, right? Listening is a feminine. Speaking is masculine, right? And this is within everything. You and I both have masculine and feminine energy, right? At the time of birth, men, they had more masculine energy, right? Or at the time of creation in the womb, they had more masculine energy. That's why they pretty much formed testicles. The woman or the girl, the woman had more feminine energy, right? That's why she formed ovaries. Right? Everything has its feminine energy. You and I both have feminine energy, like I just stated, right? We both have divine masculine, divine feminine energy within us. So this principle embodies the truth that there is gender manifested in everything, the masculine and feminine principles ever at work. This is true not only on the physical plane, but of the mental and even the spiritual planes. On the physical plane, the principles manifest as sex. On the higher planes, it takes higher forms, but the principle is ever the same. No creation, physical, mental, or spiritual, is possible without this principle. An understanding of its laws will throw light on many a subject that has perplexed the minds of men. The principle of gender works ever in the direction of generation, regeneration, and creation. Everything in every person contains the two elements of principles, or the great principle within it, him or her. Every male thing has a female element also. Every female contains also the male principle. If you would understand the philosophy of the mental and spiritual creation, generation, and regeneration, you must understand study this Hermetic principle. It contains the solution of many mysteries of law. We caution you that this principle has no reference to the many base, pernicious, I don't know if that's how you pronounce that word, and degrading lustful theories, teachings, and practices which are taught prostitution of the great natural principle of gender. Such base revivals of the ancient infamous forms of philosophy, and don't know how to pronounce that word, tend to ruin mind, body, and soul. And the Hermetic philosophy has ever sounded the warning note against these degraded teachings, which tend toward lust, licentiousness, these some big ass words, huh? And pervasion of nature's principles. If you seek such teachings, you must go elsewhere for them. Hermeticism contains nothing for you along these lines. To the pure, all things are pure. To the base, all things are base. Right? Those are the 7 Hermetic principles, or the 7 laws of Kybalion. Right? Now, if you want to check out this book is titled The Kybalion Hermetic Philosophy. Let me go to, right here it is. The Kybalion, a study of Hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece by 3 initiates. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. The Yogi Publication Society, Masonic Temple, Chicago, Illinois. All right. This is on Scribe if you want to read further. But yeah, that was hold on. So like I said, when it comes to the Kybalion, those are basically the 7 principles. Those are the things that I knew prior. Those definitions there are great. It's always great to reread them. But yeah, those are the 7 principles, right? And it says that if you follow those principles, then you can open the doors of a bunch of temples, or really open up perceptions to different realities that others or the masses don't have access to. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to thumbs it up, share it, subscribe for more. If you got any questions, leave in the comments. Like I said, check out the links in the description. Check out the store, the Etsy store. But yeah, until next time, I'm out. Peace.